Thank you for staying with us despite the assurances by the Apex Bank last week on the continued use of both the old and the new Naira notes for transactions. The cash scarcity in Lagos metropolis became more pronounced yesterday as customers were limited to 10,000 Naira over-the-counter cash while withdrawing. Some banks were totally out of cash based on the cashless policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Individual customers can make withdrawal of a maximum of 500,000 Naira per week with a limit of 100,000 in a day, while corporates were limited to 5 million Naira weekly cash withdrawal. Jide, a confession to make here. Since the Mayfield debacle, I can't remember entering a banking hall, as in even the ATM thing. I just do my transaction through the POS guys. Give me cash, let me pay for it, and I can't remember what they are charging on the counter or what the ATM maximum fee is.
Well, those guys have come to bridge a gap, and they are doing it well. They are like our personal bankers, and you can imagine for people living in the rural areas. I wonder how they can survive without the
POS guys, or how they were surviving now. Who were surviving?
Banks have shut so many branches as a result of insecurity. Once a branch gets attacked, maybe like 2 times, they will just shut it down completely.
Can't bear the
And
lesson.
that's why you go to some states like Yobe, it's only in a few towns that you see bank branches. You know, you go to even Zamfara, it's only in very few communities that you see banks. Some local government headquarters, you see banks. You travel through Kano, from Zaria to Kano. After you leave Zaria, you will drive so many kilometers, you won't see any bank. You pass through many communities without seeing a single bank. You know? So, insecurity is a factor. Banks are only going to open business where they are sure that they won't be attacked. So that is a problem. And that was why even it was difficult for people to go into the bank and submit their money at that time, you know, because of the problem. Then, of course, some people decided to hoard new notes because they thought that on the 31st of December, the deadline will kick in. But the CBN came out to say no. Maybe the mistake they made was that they should have started the sensitization earlier. No, to let people know, not wait until like a month to the deadline and start telling people that, look, don't worry, nothing is going to happen, the old Naira notes will still be legal tender. Look at the time when the Supreme Court gave the order. It was a Supreme Court order that it should terminate the 31st, you know. Maybe they should have approached the Supreme Court earlier so that Nigerians will be sufficiently sensitized that, look, there's no need for you to be hoarding money. People,
because I think we have enough to spend.
We have enough, especially of the old notes. They didn't print enough of the new notes.
But the old notes, we have.
Old notes are there. The government even told the Supreme Court justice that, look, we do not have the capacity to print those new notes at this time in a manner that will go around, enough to go around. So let's forget about that one. But we have those new notes. Those new notes are, those old notes are helping us now. So people have made a lot of withdrawals. There's been a big run on the banks. Now the banks, once people realize that this is not going to happen, then the banks can now find a way to shore up their stock of Naira notes. We cannot afford to go back to what happened earlier in the year when people are suffering. Once you can, it's not as bad as that time, because if you still approach the POS, you can get 100,000,
give it to
get 50,000, you know, which is what you need for the day. You will survive. So for many of, even me, I don't think that in the last 2.5 to 3 months I've entered the banking hall.
Since
if there's no need, why should I can always get someone to take money from me from the ATM gallery, or I go to a POS operator.
If you are restricted with the ATM gallery, the POS guys will give you.
No, they will give you. So that is the thing.
I think
we don't.
Per 1,000, per 10,000, you, I don't know.
It depends on who you are doing business with, and it depends on the community. For example, in the north, it's cheaper than here. You know, sometimes when I want to take 50K, they will ask for 3. It depends. Yes.
That's quite expensive.
Yes. What you pay in Akute is not the same as what you pay here in the town.
Okay.
So it depends on where you are transacting the business. So
okay, Paul. As in, why should this commodity be scarce?
Honestly, you know what I said?
It's essential.
I just said, not again. We can't go through this again. No, we just can't. And we just hope that those who are holding the money will release it. Like BK said, you know how people, this panic, people always panic when it comes to things like this. I will also agree that the CBN should have approached the Supreme Court earlier. But I think what the CBN can do now is to keep sensitizing the people. You know, the reason why the banks are rationing the...
in fact, somebody suggested that Asiwaju should address the nation on this matter.
Absolutely.
Because it's clear that people are not convinced that that deadline.
So
maybe
they're still suffering from the trauma of before. The
sensitization is not enough.
Exactly.
So somebody suggested that the president should address the people and let them know that, look, both of these notes are legal tender for now.
You can even do radio jingles and all of that.
We don't suffer ourselves more.
Especially the uninformed among us. So they should know. You can't blame the banks. Because what it means, people have been collecting money from the cash from the banks and they are not returning. So if the banks have no cash, and there's no
they are collecting money.
They are collecting money
to all at home,
and they are not
returning. And it's going to impact on the POS sooner or later if we don't do something about it. Because if they cannot get cash from the banks, then
no, they will go to filling stations.
They'll go to filling stations.
They'll go to filling stations.
Yeah, or people will start buying. They'll start.
Because they get a lot of their money from filling stations.
So, it's very, 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 very strange that I can't bring myself to.
I think what happened back then has eroded the confidence of Nigerians on the banks, and people were saying that, look, if they had known, they would not have put so much of their money in the banks. The pains that people went through. You can imagine, and each of us suffered. When we remember the people who are saying that they stood by Emefiele, some of them overrated journalists, saying they stood by Emefiele. You want to convince yourself that these are conscienceless people, because the number of deaths recorded during that period. If you truly have conscience, and not a bigoted and politically exposed journalist, you can't say that you stand by a man whose policy has brought Nigerians to their graves. You cannot say that. Do you know what you are talking about? Are you normal? So people taking money and refusing to go back to use the banks, deposit money in the banks, is a consequence of the erosion of confidence in the banks, which happened during that period.
Yes.
And you don't blame them. Some would rather now you go and dig somewhere and put their money.
I'm telling you,
so that when you need the money, you have access to it. You just go there and pick your thing.
Not to go and
you are not. You are facing maybe your child is in hospital. You need to pay to buy blood and all that, and you can't find money. So you cannot blame those who are. I think somebody even warned that by the time this whole thing is over, the banks will suffer. Because a lot of people, especially these small and medium scale nano businesses, they will not use the banks. They will not use the banks because the confidence in the banks was eroded. And to the shame of the people at CBN, they were lying against the banks, accusing the banks of hoarding.
That time, I remember.
They went to a bank in Abuja, and some people were jubilating that, yes, the debt with the bank. They claimed that the bank was hoarding. Whereas that bank was a cash center for other branches from where they distribute. So what was supposed to go to their branches, in that region, they push to that bank first before it goes to others. You now found them before they distributed the money. You now said that they were hoarding. Okay. Of course, they provided the proof to show that, look, we were yet to supply our branches.
All right. We can take this break. When we come back, we'll talk more. It's still Journalist Hangout. We'll be right back after this breakdown. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Julie, we have to have a final verdict on this. We mustn't allow this to degenerate because we've seen that this currency is tied to so many lives and survivors of Nigeria.
There is scarcity in the banks. The CBN has to address that. The CBN has to address that. As much as we want to control the cash what's it called? The circulation. We must not overdo it. You can't tell a man who knows that he has the right to withdraw 100,000, that he can only withdraw 10,000. When you do that, you are telling him that we are back to the Emefiele.
You are violating his rights.
Yes, we are back to the Emefiele Naira painting project. That's what to suggest to people, and they don't want to remember that nightmarish experience. And you see, the recoloring is so terribly done. Look at how poor that quality. Take that 1,000 naira, keep it with you for 24 hours, and come and look at it. The other one is so durable. You will see it looks fine. As you are looking at it, those new notes, it looks fine when you are looking at it.
But the quality.
Within a short time, it gets terribly bad.
That's true.
I don't know the kind of people that they gave this job to.
Paul, I don't know. We have security and meeting. I think for the first time, they attempted to do this job. But did they make good use of it? I can't say.
I don't know. The whole thing was poorly planned, poorly executed, wrong timing. Everything about that. The Naira recoloring or repainting was bad, was poorly done.
It's not redesign. You can call it redesign if the design really changed. It's just the color.
So that's why we said it's recoloring.
It's repainting.
Officially, they call it.
Deceive us. It's the same way that Awolowo and the rest of the way they sat down in those notes. That's the same way they are presented.
So nothing is
the color that changed.
Yes.
So it's not redesign. It's repainting, recoloring.
You know.
A project like that, we must give it time.
Exactly.
Not this short time.
Exactly. I know. You know, we said that during the period that we were having that serious cash crunch. So anything that has to be done should be done now. Because if you don't do it, people will overwhelm the electronic transactions. Remember the ugly experiences we had?
Yeah.
Some of us could not do transactions on
the banking portals till tomorrow.
Exactly.
They've not been able to cope with the quantum.
You should have first asked questions. That, okay, when we are doing this, a huge proportion of our population would like to go electronic. do we have the capacity?
Yes.
We don't.
To
Infrastructure,
do that.
everything that
The fintech guys, do they have the capacity to take in all
yes,
of the
till tomorrow is still a
deluge
nightmare.
of customers
Yes,
wanting
yes.
to use those payment platforms? We didn't do that. We just went, whoo, let us do it. And at the same time, I said that we are going to have a cashless election. Did we have it in the end? Politicians still were able to spend money. In fact, a friend of mine was telling me that his own senator from Kano, that he brought out those new notes. The way he was spending it in Kano, he was wondering, where did he get it? The ordinary people
don't get
We have access to it.
But it is foolhardy to think the Nigerian politician
Exactly.
who has his friends as bank MDs and the rest will not have.
They just